Welcome to another video. Today I'd like to talk about memorising a standard, or memorising a tune or a song or a jazz standard or whatever really you want to call it, but it's just about how we memorise songs. It'll apply to most genres, but we're going to look at a jazz standard today. So the one we're going to look at is the one I was just playing over. It's a tune called All the Things You Are, and I was playing over it there to a backing track made by Simon Peter King. You can find him on YouTube. He made this backing track, so go on his channel. I'll put the link in the description below for you to find that and have a play over it yourself. For the fantastic tracks, he plays all the instruments himself. You can buy them on Bandcamp and all that stuff, so yeah, have a look, check those out. Cool. So the topic of this video came about really the other day. I was talking to a student and I'd set him sort of a task of memorising a tune that we were working on for the following lesson, and he came back to the following lesson. He said, I've pretty much got there, but I can't quite remember it all. There was some sort of black spots, or some blank spots I should say, in his memory, and he was really struggling to just take it all in. So I thought, well, yeah, it's a good point, because if you're not that familiar with the language or the harmony or the tune itself, then it's quite a daunting task to learn a tune like a jazz standard. That's why I've picked a jazz standard, because there are generally a lot of chords, a lot of harmony in it, a lot of language, a lot of different things to think about. So I picked this tune, All the Things You Are, because it's quite common, it's quite popular, most people have heard of it. If not, go and have a listen to it. There's tons of versions out there. The guitarists, the Pat Metheny one, trio one is fantastic. It's written by a guy called Jerome Kern. It's an old tune from the 30s, I think. Rodgers and Hammerstein. Something like Very Warm for May, an old musical theatre thing, as a lot of standards originally were. But anyway, it's got some really interesting harmony in it. It's very functional harmony, but there's some interesting little devices in there. So it's a good one to sort of as a case study, if you like. Cool. So the first thing that that most people do wrong is they try and learn the chords first. They try and quickly get the chords down as quick as they can so that they can just get straight to soloing straight away. The problem with that is it's a bit of a narrow viewpoint, because really speaking, the melody is the most important thing. We should all learn the melody first. We should take it upon ourselves to learn the melody. Before we learn anything else, learn the melody. In the grand scheme of things, the melody is the most important thing. It's the only thing that matters. Your average listener, your average punter on the street, that's the thing that they're going to go away singing, not the interesting sort of tritone substitutions in the bridge. They don't give a shit about that. They think about the melody, and you should too. When you first learn a song, when you first learn a tune, if you learn the melody first, you're going to have such a much easier time learning the changes. I guarantee that. So that's number one, learn the melody first. The second thing is, make sure you can play the melody in a couple of different octaves, because usually when you learn them as they're written down, it's in the wrong octave. Usually it's written an octave below. So most people play the melodies All Things You Are here. There, and so on. Now really, that's an octave too low, so you should always try and learn it an octave higher than what it's written as well. This tune in particular is a good one because it's in fourths, a lot of it, so it's quite easy to move around the guitar. Don't cheat and just move it up here and go and use the exact same fingering. Challenge yourself and play it up here, and you'll see this fourth relationship a bit better, because you're just on the top two strings. See what I mean? Then the bridge would be, and so on. So play it in a couple of different areas, even transpose it if you want, play it in a couple of different keys. That's not essential, but it can be useful if you end up having to do that in a jam or whatever. If you've got maybe you've got a female singer and she prefers to sing it a fourth up or something like that, then it's useful to be able to know how to do that. And if you can look at the tune and the melody, the shape of the melody, and see how it moves around, so if you can see, like for example this is moving in fourths, it's way easier to do that if you've got a good solid understanding of the way and the shape of the melody. That's really important. Cool, so the next thing is to sing that melody over the changes. That's really important as well. It really helps you to see the relationship between the intervals in the melody and the changes, and it also really helps you learn the changes as well. You'll find that if you can do that, it kind of leads you into the next change. You can hear it. See what I mean? You can kind of be led into the next chord, so it really helps when you're trying to memorize the next chord by singing the melody over it, and again reinforces the interval relationship between the melody and the changes. Very useful. Cool. Next point, look for patterns and movements within the chords, within the changes as well. That'll help a lot when you come to transpose it. So for example in this tune, it's in A flat, so it starts on the F minor 7, so that's the 6, and then it goes 2 to B flat minor, 5, E flat 7, 1, so you've got 6, 2, 5, 1 to start the tune off. And then it goes up to 4, and then you get 5, 1 in C major, and then that changes to minor, and that process starts again in E flat. So we go 6, 2, 5, 1, 4, and then it goes up to 5, 1 in G. Yeah, so that A flat to D7, that's a little tritone sub there, down to G, and that's the first A section done. Simple as that. 6, 2, 5, 1, down to the 5, 1 in major, C major, turn that into C minor, do the same in E flat, down to G major, done. Then the bridge goes 2, 5, 1 in G, and then you get a little minor 2, 5, F sharp minor 7 flat 5, B7 flat 9, and then up to E major 7, and then you get the little C altered chord there, which brings it nicely back round to the F minor 7 for the final A section. And it does the same thing as the first one, all the way up to that 4 chord D flat. Then we minorize that, very common. Then we chromatically move down, C minor 7, B flat diminished, and then typical 2, 5, 1, and then stick a turnaround on of your choice, 1, 6, 2, 5, or whatever, you know. And that's the whole tune memorized. But because you can analyze it like that in terms of the relationship between the chords, it's so much easier to put that in different keys. And just to remember it as well, if you forget it, you can just go, oh yeah. It starts. That's that one that starts 6, 2, 5, 1, isn't it? And you've got it, bam, done. Now another good one that I like to do is I like to put a metronome on and try to play over the changes, and I'll just find one subdivision, usually it's quavers to be honest, and I'll try and play over those changes in quavers solidly without dropping the ball. So the idea is you've got to just keep going, and you've got to try and stick to quavers as well. It's harder than it sounds, as I'll demonstrate now when I end up playing something else inevitably, but it's really difficult to do. So you've got to try and outline all the chords, stick to quavers, because then you don't worry about rhythm or phrasing and things like that, You're merely sort of really trying to internalise those changes. I find this is a great way to learn them. If I do this for 5 minutes on a tune, I've pretty much always got it. So I'll show you what I'm talking about. So there's the metronome, 80 BPM, so set to the 2 and 4. So I'll go. That kind of thing. So you can see there was a couple of little times where I stuck a little triplet in or whatever, and that's, you know, that's pretty normal. Don't worry too much if you do that, because that's not really the goal of the exercise. The goal of the exercise is just to memorise them, but try and stick to whichever subdivision you pick. That's just a good sort of exercise in discipline, if nothing else. And try to sort of move around the fretboard and get sort of familiar with where everything's laid out as well. Another thing you can do is try and isolate it and play it all in one position. That's another cool thing you can do as well. But I like to sort of just be free with it and let it go where it wants. It's just, like I said, a really good way of internalising it and finding out where it all sort of maps out on the fretboard. Again, without dropping the ball. That's the important thing. Don't stop whatever happens. Cool. So the last point is try and play along with this tune, or any tune that you're trying to learn, with as many recorded versions as you can. So play along with, if it was this one, you know, I'd probably play along with the Dizzy Gillespie version. That's the famous one, the one that's got that different intro in. That one that everyone knows. I'd probably play along with that one, maybe Pat Metheny's version. That's like a seminal version for guitar, and I just find lots of different versions to play along with, because you'll find that different people phrase the melody differently, they'll approach the changes differently, they'll have a different feel in there, they'll kind of put their own stamp on it, and the more versions you play along with, the more feel you're going to get for it, and you get a lot more benefit sometimes from playing along with a band. So that's, you know, a recorded band, a live recording, and you can comp for the soloist when it's their time to solo, and you can solo. It's just a really good way of doing it. It's kind of the second best thing to playing live, to doing it live. So that's really the final thing. If you can, try and do this with other people, even if it's just your mate, 2 guitars, or if you can get along to a jam session, and then, you know, once you feel comfortable with the tune, call the tune, and have a go at playing it. It's just a jam. It doesn't matter if you completely fuck it up, you know, it doesn't really matter. Just do your best, and the more you play it, the better it'll get. So that's pretty much it. I'll just quickly run over the list again. So learn the melody, play in different octaves, different keys, look for patterns in the changes, the way they move around, sing the melody over the changes, practice the subdivisions, so whatever that might be, quavers, triplets, semi-quavers, whatever you want to do, over the changes without dropping the ball. Play along with some recorded versions, and then try and get out there and play it live. If you do all those things, you'll definitely be able to remember the tune a lot easier than if you just jump straight into sort of iReal Pro, jam over it a few times, not bother learning the melody, not really paying much attention to the pattern of the harmony and the way that it moves around, with no kind of real direction. You know, you've got to kind of dig deep into these tunes and really get inside them. That's the way I've always found that I'll learn them the best. And then as it becomes part of your repertoire, you've just got to sort of do a bit of maintenance every now and again, keep revisiting the tune, and then hopefully it'll just be in there. So if this video has been of any use to you, if you found it useful in giving you some tips into how to memorise a standard or a tune, and how to sort of chunk all these sort of big pieces of information down into smaller, more manageable bite-sized chunks, then I would appreciate it if you give the video a like, give it a thumbs up, and subscribe to the channel. I'll be releasing at least one video a week from now on, going over similar topics to this. The next video I might do sort of an essential standards list, maybe a 10 tune thing, my 10 essential tunes or whatever. That was inspired by Nick Harrison, a conversation I had with Nick the other day on Facebook, and we'll see if we go from there. If that kind of thing interests you, just drop a comment below, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks very much, guys. Cheers.